Friction is a force that exists between two objects in contact. It always opposes the relative motion between the two objects. Static friction prevents a body at rest from moving. The magnitude of force of static friction is equal to the product of the coefficient of static friction and the normal force. Here, μs stands for the coefficient of static friction. For an object lying on a flat plane, the normal force is equal to the weight of the body. Once we overcome the static friction, we have to deal with the kinetic friction or rolling friction. It is the frictional force that comes into play when there is a relative motion between two objects. The magnitude of the force of kinetic friction is also equal to the product of the coefficient of the kinetic friction and the normal force. Here, μk stands for the coefficient of kinetic friction. The coefficient of kinetic friction is much smaller than the coefficient of static friction for an object. This implies that once we apply enough force to overcome the static friction and set the body in motion, we need less effort to keep the body moving. Now the boy pushes the crate up an inclined plane. Without friction, the body would have slipped down under the action of gravity. But now, the force of gravity has to overcome the force of static friction to move down. The forces acting on the stationary crate are its weight acting downwards, the normal force acting along the positive y-axis, and the frictional force acting along the positive x direction. Let us find out the net force acting along the y-axis. The action of frictional force has nothing to do with this force. From this relation, we can find out the normal force acting on the crate. Now, let us find out the net force acting along the x-axis. It is the algebraic sum of the frictional force and the weight of the crate along the x-axis. For the crate to move down along the inclined plane, the force of gravity has to overcome the frictional force. The critical angle at which the crate will start sliding down can be obtained by setting Fx equal to 0 and finding out theta.